Every country in the world has a bit of a bad side: terrorism, social vices, bad influence, and any bad or good thing you can think of. But in this video, our research led us into Nigeria, in the African continent. The story is about this man. His full name is Bola Ahmed Adaycunlay Teanewboo. He holds the revered titles of Asiwaju of Lagos and Jagaban of Borgu Kingdom, and has been identified as the individual behind recent political maneuvers in the region. His known date of birth is 29 March 1952, which makes him 70 years, a figure many has disputed due to unknown reasons, and yes, of course, he aguably looks older, but no one really knows his real age. His birthplace is Osun State, southwest of Nigeria. He is a Muslim and belongs to the Yoruba ethnic group. Yoruba is the most widely spoken language outside Nigeria and Africa. It's been estimated that there are over 40 million Yoruba primary and secondary language speakers across the globe. These Yoruba speakers are found in Togo and Benin Republic. Teanewboo had his education in Nigeria's Ibadan before he continued to college in Chicago, and onwards to the Chicago State University for his undergraduate studies. He graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Accounting in 1979. Was Mr. Teanewboo a drug lord? The story is not new, but it won't go away this easy. Much has been done to sweep this story under the rug, but the story is like a body that refuses to stay buried. It resurfaces every time Mr. Teanewboo makes any sort of move. It is the unsettled ghost that never wants to stay in its grave, and of course this is expected, especially in the Nigerian political system, where political opponents grab every single opportunity to take down its opposition. But in this case, I would not say Mr. Teanewboo is innocent. Let's go back to the 1990s. The 42-year-old Leandro Edwards was one of the entrepreneurs who had found a place in the heroin trade, and by all accounts, he had done well for himself. On this day, October 11, 1990, federal agents of the Drug Enforcement Agency executed a search warrant at Gary, Indiana in the United States, in a particular residential building belonging to Indiana drug lord Lee Edwards. After knocking on the front door, identifying themselves, and receiving no reply from within, the agents entered the house. Within seconds of entering, the agents encountered gunfire. 3 shots were fired at them through the door of the master bedroom on the first floor. In response to directions from the agents, Lee Edwards and his wife Lori Edwards, the only 2 individuals in the master bedroom, surrendered and was arrested. Agents found a recently fired .357 Colt revolver on the floor of the bedroom at Lee Edwards' feet, and a plastic bag containing a white substance in his pajama pocket, later determined to be cocaine. The agents searched the residence and recovered a triple beam scale, as well as other drug paraphernalia, including a grinder, clear plastic bags, wrappers, and envelopes. The agents also discovered a number of containers with a white powdered substance inside, as well as others containing a brown powdered substance, thousands of cash and dollars hidden in purses, birthplace. Fireplace. A search of the upstairs bedroom revealed a .30 caliber carbine rifle and a loaded handgun, hidden under the mattress. DEA forensic chemists determined that the brown and white substances inside the jars and containers found in Edwards' residence were heroin and cocaine, respectively. Several other containers also contained lactose. But where did all these drugs and substances come from? Nigerian criminal groups are responsible for wholesale distribution of most of the heroin shipped into Chicago. Heroin, which is 80 to 90% pure, is being sold by Nigerian traffickers for thousands of dollars per kilogram. Wholesalers in Chicago usually sell heroin without cutting it to minimize their handling of the product and their exposure to law enforcement. But why hasn't none of this linked to Bola Teanewboo yet? That's where this guy comes in, a Nigerian drug dealer in Chicago called revered aguably. Aguably wasn't a criminal mastermind. Howsoever, this is because his uncle Adegboye Akindaye took him in shortly after he arrived in the United States. Akan taught him how to run the business. When Akindaye returned to Nigeria in mid-90s, Aguably was left in charge of selling regular heroin shipments from Nigeria to Lee Edwards, and delivering the profits to his uncle. In the meantime, the Nigerian-led heroin trade in Chicago fed an addiction epidemic that became so bad that it changed local health and law enforcement practices. For the first time, providing addicts with free access to safe syringes and needles to ensure that they did not share them and possibly spread HIV became a core focus of public health policy. In other words, SCA heroin from Nigeria was so potent and addictive that public health policy in Chicago shifted away from trying to make heroin addicts stop using altogether, and merely ensuring that they use safely. But in all of this, Mr. Teanewboo name never appeared or even come up at any point, and it's concerning. You see, Mr. Teanewboo has always been a mysterious person under the public eye. He was a ghost. He was not really from Lagos, the state where he was a governor. He had no credible certificate, and this guy went to a non-existent school and suddenly attended the University of Chicago. Which is sketchy. While all of this was going on, an interesting subplot was taking place in the background. Before we go on with this story, kindly hit that subscribe button and turn on post notification. We have more interesting crime stories to tell. Remember, Mr. Teanewboo is an accountant by profession. We really don't know how he got a degree, but he is good at what he does. Back in Nigeria, he works as an accountant in an oil company, where he gets a monthly paycheck of $2,400, but he had just deposited $1.4 million in a bank in Chicago, which proves he has been wiring money on behalf of Nigerian heroin gang in Chicago. Fast forward a bit to January 1992, and he would find himself the subject of a US federal investigation. Mr. Teanewboo invested most of the money he made in the drug business into real estate. Was Teanewboo attempting to hide money from the US authorities by parking it in real estate once he realized they were onto him? Where did the funds to carry out this transaction even come from, at a time when his accounts were being frozen right, left and center? He bought series of landed properties in the US and cash alongside his wife. After series of investigations from United States government, there is no real evidence against Teanewboo. Well, they do, but we don't really know how he isn't behind bars in the United States. Information reaching the public is Teanewboo cannot fly into the United States, but we don't really know if that will be exempted, especially now that he is president and commander-in-chief. The United States government also congratulated him on being elected as a president. Comment below if you want to see a video on how he got into a political position in Nigeria, and don't forget to turn on post notification, hit the subscribe button for more.